Thank you for having me here, and we're going to go through. I want to bring you some numbers, talk a little bit about the Sheriff's Office itself, some of the things you may or may not know, and hopefully we'll have, I know y'all got another thing going, hopefully we'll have time at the end, and I'll answer any question that you want. Presentation is intended to address the basic concerns of the Sheriff's Office, and as we have talked over the years of going on budget processing and coming up, is things in law enforcement are happening faster and faster every year. They're getting more hectic. There's more things going on, more things we have to address. I think I can safely say this, that each one of you at any given time within a month or so probably calls me to, got a constituent says this, we just talked to Ms. Wilson about something the other day, Mr. Crowder, and I think I can, all of you, about, you know, this is going on. Well, that requires me to take somebody to do it that's doing something else sometime, or redirect someone that's in your neighborhood. And what I'm going to say is, I think I'm safe to say this, every one of you has done this but Mr. Cole. And I think he's just getting his feet wet, so he'll be on the list, I'm sure. And I know we have a time to talk later. And you know, the council has done a good job over the years in developing economic development. But I've said this over my entire career, when economic development comes to an area and you grow businesses, you bring more people brings more calls to law enforcement, to emergency management, to fire folks, to EMS, to our whole industry. The more people you bring in, the more we have to do. And so I think we really need to have a plan, and you'll see where this presentation is going. And the overall plan is not just addressing what we got right now. We need a real long-range plan to have something in place that year after year after year after year we keep growing on that idea. You bring an industry in here and they build a big business like the paper company and a couple of those. You know, they have alarms, they have things that happen, they have bomb threats. As you see from the newspaper, we're dealing with Electrolux on a regular basis right now. We have made a couple of arrests, but there's still a few other people calling them bomb threats at Electrolux. And so we have to deal with that, and that takes a lot of manpower just to take care of that one call, much less anything else. The Sheriff's Office itself, there on your screen, that's actually not quite all of the divisions that we do, but you can look there. You got uniform patrol. Most people know what that is. That's the guys riding your neighborhood. They come around and check your alarms. They come take your incident reports and those kind of things. And they are constantly going on calls anymore. I told some people at the lunch thing over at the Bleckley the other day that, you know, it seems like within every every 2 to 3 hours in a 24-hour period, we're going on a priority one call, and I'm going to explain that later in the presentation. That means somebody's got a gun, somebody's got a knife, there's a fight, there's something going on, there's an alarm going off, those kind of things that we have to go and take care of in a fast situation, unlike a priority two call. So we explain those. Narcotics and drug enforcement, they also do our vice. We haven't announced this, and Nikki, but we've been getting quite a few complaints on the massage parlors, and over the past 5 to 6 months we have closed down just about every one of them, to include closing one of them down 3 times. They would close them down, we'd make the case, we would give them a ticket, they'd take that, and then they have another lady come open it up, and so we go 2-3 days later and arrest her. And so I think we've got them at this point right now where they believe us, and I think they are closed down at this point in time. We're going to put a release out there because we've had several complaints on, especially some up in the northern district up there, and those are closed down. They haven't been back open. Criminal investigations, 19 to 20 investigators handle every case that's referred to them as a follow-up. When you have your constituents say, you call, what's going on with my case and all this, 60% of our calls that we go on take reports, investigations get it. I got 19 people doing that, doing all aspects, from burglaries, larcenies, sex offenses. We had, I can't go into that, I'll do that later. Had an incident the other day with a very small child that was violated, and that took a toll on some of my investigators. Forensics, the guys go out, there's 10 of those in there to go out and process scenes, just like CSI on TV, that we can do it all. We just can't analyze DNA, but we can collect it and send it to SLED to have it analyzed. Warrants and Civil Division. The Warrants and Civil Division is those folks that you deal with and people out here in the audience that if you're a landlord, you got people renting from you, you got people that's done business with you. Actually, that's a constitutional duty of the sheriff, is the keeper of the jail and the service of process. If I don't do anything else, technically I'm doing my job by the Constitution. And so we go out, evict people and those kind of things. On an average, every year, they serve 16,500 papers. Now, you notice I said serve 16,000. Don't think for the first chance that you go up and knock on somebody's door, and when they peek out, they say, oh, that's a friendly deputy out there that's got a paper in his hand. I'll go answer the door and talk to them. So our records show that they have about 17,900 attempts to serve those 16,500 papers. Detention center, we've talked about that with y'all, with council after council after council. We've got 75 employees there. You're going to see in our staffing review in just a minute that there actually are 16 people short at the detention center, have been for the last 12 to 15 years, and that has been documented year after year after year with the Department of Corrections survey that they do every year. 911 center. 911 center, we're going to see some numbers later, 600,000 plus phone calls in a year at 911 center. That's everything. Emergency services, keeping up with everything we do, coordinating the fire, EMS, and Homeland Security and all the other things we do. Bomb Squad's part of that, Homeland Security. SROs, 17 SROs in the schools around the county. School system fortunately pays for those, but you know what? I have to dicker with them every year about what they want to pay, how much they want to pay, what can I, the Sheriff's Office, absorb to take away that. I got a meeting with them in a week and a half. They're going to talk about some budgetary issues coming up in the next year. So they're always wanting to keep the service, but cut back on how much they have to pay. Animal control, we've talked about those before. Training division. Training division, I have two lieutenant and sergeant in there. They pull on resources from throughout the department. So that's another thing where if I got investigators that are trained instructors, they have to be pulled away from doing investigations on a day or two to go out there and help with the training, because we put in somewhere around 1,000 hours of training every year throughout the department, and the training division has to coordinate that, instruct that. Aviation division, that's kind of self-sustaining with narcotics money and those kind of things. It's a very good asset when you're out chasing someone. One of the biggest assets that people don't realize is say, well, you're chasing a suspect. What I like it for is keeping up with my folks. Because when we put a dog team out there chasing a guy in the woods with a gun, we got the helicopter up with the FLIR down there so they can see any heat movement in front of that dog team, so that dog team don't get shot. That's the biggest issue. Or what they're coming up to. They're running through the woods. They can tell the dog team in another 50 feet or so, you're going to come out in a field, versus a dog team not knowing if they got another 100 miles of woods they got to go through, and where the swamps are and those kind of things. So that's a very important part of the aviation division. Obviously, part of our role is apprehending criminals, problem solving. That's where some of y'all's complaints come in, is when it's really not a criminal thing, but it's in the neighborhood and we're patrolling it, so we go try to help do some problem solving. Monitoring criminal activity. I got a crime analysis lady that she is about as overworked as a person you can get, but I have to tell you, she loves it. She's one of those clinical, brain people that loves the numbers and loves those things. So tracking, reading every report that comes in, the 911 center data that comes in, tracking who's going where, who's moving where, and she works very close with our investigative division to monitor the criminals that we know of and that we can track. Community services. Got two people in community services, and somebody's asked me over the years, why do I need somebody in community services? Well, I think as a sheriff, I need to supply to my citizens and the citizens of Anderson County those things that they like to do, or they need, or they want to do. My community services people in a year, on the average, either teach themselves or coordinate getting a dog team there because somebody wants to see the dog. Last night I was at Broadway Lake Community Center. Captain White was there, and they had Lieutenant Chris Scott from the Forensics Division there to talk about forensics. Well, our community services coordinates all that. When we have a request from the community, what do you want and how can we provide that? They do on the average of 211 presentations throughout the entire year and touch more than 25 to 26,000 people in our county with those kind of presentations. Maintaining community quality of life and enforcing the law, if nothing else, we try to do. Put that at the bottom of the list, so I say, we still look at doing that too. But all those other functions do that. Our staffing concerns. At the Sheriff's Office, we're not enough road patrol and deputies to be able to answer calls on a timely basis. And I'm going to show you some numbers in a minute. Overcrowding the detention center. We talk about that every year. It's understaffed, and we obviously need some space. Independent staffing surveys show that personnel deficiencies, 16 at the jail we know of, because that's in the report every year. I really, in my budget request about every year, ask for 6 per shift on road patrol to help answer calls. That'd be 24 there. I could use 5 narcotics deputies, 6 investigators, and 12 dispatchers. When you look at that, catch up in the lower part just so I don't forget something. When you look at that, the challenge is that putting all that together and being able to answer calls. I'm going to show you some numbers in a minute, how much the calls have gone up for service. But here's the reality. The reality is, if you were telling me tonight, okay, you can hire 50 deputies, start in the morning. I can't get them hired, and I'm going to show you in the training process right away. So that's why I say that we really need a comprehensive plan, to plan from year to year to year, to add these folks on as we go forward. And because going to the academy and all those kind of things, and like I said, I'll show you. Here's the cost of turnover. It takes 32 weeks for a basic academy graduate to be trained and equipped to answer calls. Got 8 weeks when we get him in. We go through an orientation with the Sheriff's Office. We start prepping them to go to the academy so they can't, it helps a few people. We do a Nelson Denny test for, for their skills and things. But some people struggle with that legal. So we start them a couple weeks early, getting legal updates. They start watching videos at the training center and all that goes with that. Then once they go to academy, there's 12 weeks at the academy. Once they graduate the academy, then when they come back here, we put them in a field training officer program, and then we put them on the road. So you can count up the number of weeks before we actually get somebody in the academy, get them back, and they're actually out here helping us, helping you to answer those calls. Starting salary costs, and that's not including, and we're talking about the turnover here, if you see at the top of the page, the cost of turnover. When we have these people go to the academy and take those 32 weeks, the starting cost for that, it doesn't include equipment, fuel, and uniforms. It's just getting the person in, getting a salary. So we have figured in there, and as y'all know, I meant to mention this out, as y'all know, I've got 2 mathematical geniuses that keep up with my budget every year, Richard Bryson being the CPA, and Stacy Presley having a master's from Anderson University and several other degrees to keep up with this stuff, because I can't do this on a day-to-day basis. But with that, you see the number there. 25. If we have a turnover of 25 deputies in a year, we have spent an additional $392,300 for that turnover cost. We need to get a place where we get people to help us answer calls, and we need to get a place where they're paid so that they can be compensated for the work that they do. In 2011, 89,467 calls came through the 911 center for the Sheriff's Office. That's not the small towns, not Belton and Honey Path and all this. They have their own numbers. That's just the Sheriff's Office. In 2011, the average officer response on a priority 1 call, and like I said, we'll hit on those when I get through this a little bit, it was 10 minutes. A priority 1 call is somebody with a knife, a gun, an alarm going off at a business, something that we determine that's a time life critical call. If we don't get there in a reasonable amount of time, somebody gets seriously injured, could get killed, those kind of things. Those are priority 1 calls. Priority 2 call is not in progress, already happened, thefts, those kind of things. And so we are challenged in every case. And I debated to do this during this presentation. I'm glad I didn't, because the other ones took longer than y'all probably anticipated. And I have a couple of audio tapes of certain days where I've got the radio traffic from the 911 center, and I'd like a time just for you to sit down there and listen to it. You can see how Jacob Bolin, on the one I've got, Jacob Bolin is a sergeant, and he is constantly telling dispatch, and dispatch is constantly telling him, we have this call holding. Well, now we got this priority 1 call, so put the priority 2 one on hold. One of you have got a lawnmower stolen. You came home for the weekend, and and the lawnmower is gone. We don't get there real quick on that call. 911 center, as I alluded a while ago, 600,000 plus phone calls a year. That's for everything: fire, EMS, law enforcement, non-emergency. We're working on the system now, and some of you know, and we've been working on it for a while, and we're ready to go. There's a 311 where you get those admin calls going to 311 console, not so much in a dispatcher. Volumes of call, you can see the numbers on the bar chart there. The red ones are the priority 1s, and the other ones are the priority 2 and 3. You can see the years: 31,000, next was 33, leveled off again at 31, and then this past year is 36,000 priority 1 calls. Emergency calls to the dispatch center. This is not the sheriff's office. This has nothing to do with the sheriff's office. This is everybody else. You can see in 12 is 155,000 plus, and this is for your fire, EMS, other law enforcement, all the small towns. 2013, 356,000. 2014, 364,000. Been asked about litter. I know I, like y'all, probably seen the article. We made the top of a list again. The worst or dirtiest state in America, I think it was said. I don't remember. And I've been asked about litter because the litter enforcement's not under me. The county handles that. But we do have trustees at the jail that we pick up, and we have litter teams. And I've been asked, why can't we have more? Why can't we have more? Even some council members have asked that. Well, it comes to the manpower. It comes to vehicles. You can see there that a litter pickup team can improve the county. There's 2 deputies we have to have somebody supervise those inmates. We can get all the state inmates that we can handle, and we have plenty of room to do those because of our trustee dorm that we made downstairs in the basement. We stack them in there like cordwood so we can get as many as we can, but we have them working all over the county. All the towns have trustees, but we can get as many to pick up litter as you want to. Here are the numbers. You talk about the capital, it's about $9,000 for equipment. And that's for the officer. Then you need a truck, $23,000 for a truck, plus the equipment that goes on it, blue lights and radios and everything else. And then there's a trailer for $3,000, and then the salary for the deputy would be $27,000 plus 28% for the friend benefits, which would be about $34,000. But if we have other folks to do that, and that is paid for, then we can have as many litter cruises as we can put in the budget to do that. I can't take current budget people and do that, though, because they're doing other things, as you get ready to see. Salary concerns, you can look at the column yourself. I'm not going to read it all. Uniform salary comparisons, Lexington County, Greenville County, Aiken County. Those are the minimums and maximums for those counties. Aiken County just went up, and I actually think that number, that 31, might be a little incorrect. But if they have some benefits and stuff like this, they're actually starting about 35 now, I believe. Pickens County is right next to us is 29. Oconee is 29. Spartanburg is 27. Abbeville County is 25. Interesting note, we hired a guy from Abbeville County. He came up here. He loved working here, but he does live in Abbeville County. Sheriff Watson down there, because we've hired a couple of those people. But Sheriff Watson said, you know, when I get the opportunity, I'm going to hire him back. And I said, I know that's the way it works. Well, one of them just went back because they offered him $4,000 more than he's working for here. And he's answering 15 to 20 calls here a day, and down there he's only answering 5. And what that does for that officer in Abbeville County is he don't have as many calls to answer, so he's really doing police work. He gets the opportunity to go out here and ride through somebody's neighborhood looking for suspicious stuff instead of going from call to call to call, and don't have time to do proactive patrolling. Chester, you see that, they're a smaller county. We're on the right, 25,500. Our maximum is 58,000. I've got a note someplace else in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, you could put that maximum at 150,000 if you wanted to. You know why? We'll never get there. Because if we haven't had increased raises over the years in keeping up with what's going on around us, you can put a maximum of $150,000 because ain't nobody ever going to get there because they're not getting the incremental 1,000 a year, 1,000 a year, 1,000 a year. Numbers and uniform patrol salaries. That just gives you a bar chart so you can kind of see we're in the red on the left on the minimum at 25, and the purple one's Lexington County. There, that high side starting there, and then the maximums are on the other side. That, as you can see, maximums. You can make a maximum whatever you want. 911 center, same situation. Abbeville. You see the numbers on the left. Abbeville, Aiken County, starting at 31. Greenville, 30. Oconee, 25. Close to what we're doing, but they're still above us. Pickens County, 25. Spartanburg, 27. Our scale shows 18,000 to the 33. We actually do have a process, and it's because we build in. Somebody jump up and holler and scream if this is wrong. We build in that overtime that they have to require to get, because we have to train them on their time. You follow that? Because if they're being trained, we can't pull them out of the 911 center to be training while nobody's in there answering phones, and we can't bring them in on off days, or we do bring them in on off day, or bring them in early. So that budgetary line item that we have in there, it says overtime. Most people don't understand what that overtime part means. That's that built in to make sure we accommodate. So our starting is about 23. It's actually above that 18 there, but our scale says that, and that's what our scale says. 911 center is currently staffed with 52 dispatchers. There are 21 brand spanking new dispatchers out of them 52 because of their turnover, because of the pay, and because they're overstressed with the work they have to do. And you'll see right there, the latest study I got is when you look around the state to compare 911 centers, you have to be careful how you compare them, because certain areas don't do fire, certain ones don't do EMS, some of them only do everything like we do. But even with that, with the call volume in the state of South Carolina, we are ranked number 4 in call volume in the state. There's the chart. Just give you the example of the numbers so you can see it on a little bar chart. The detention center, that's our starting salary at the detention center, is 26. Uniform patrol deputy is 25.5. Someone may raise an eyebrow here and say, "Oh, the detention center gets started at a little more." That is a byproduct of Sheriff Crenshaw, and I tend to agree with it, so I kept it in place. But the detention center officers don't get cars, whereas the uniform patrol guy gets a car. And so that's usually that offset there. And there's a couple other uniform things that the detention center doesn't get that the patrol guys get. So that's why that's there. Dispatchers, 22.5. And you'll see that we looked up to see what the poverty level is. The poverty level is $24,250. I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but I have been around long enough, and I do tend to understand numbers. I've heard of the millage system over the years. There are a couple of people that have it. Sheriff Metz, Lexington County, has always had a millage for law enforcement. Florence County has just gone with it. We are actually different than both of them. I, the sheriff, have a millage side of my budget, and I have a line item side. When y'all decided to move the dispatch and the animal control and those things over, those are line item budgets, so we left that as a line item budget rather than converting it into millage. So I have a two, and no one else in the state has that. But it's my understanding, and I'll be glad to sit down with anyone that wants to explain to me and explain it different, the millage is for operational expenses, your day-to-day operational expenses. If you have any growth over the years or anticipate any growth, that has to be addressed within the millage number. Those numbers are the numbers that come from the county. The ordinary operating county budget, which is the first column, is Anderson County ordinary operating budget. That's what it takes to run everything else, not the sheriff's office and not the other. The other is the bond issues and the capital projects. So that's kind of set in another thing. And then you have the sheriff's office millage, which is at 30.8. As you can see, it's got the extra zero there, but we always refer to 30.8. If you remember, we over the past couple of years, that number's gone up a little, up and down a little bit, but it's back at 30.8 in this year's budget. What I don't understand is the county ordinary operating budget has gone up 27.21%. That's because y'all's bills have gone up. Gas has cost you more. Those things have cost you more. Electricity has gone up and everything else. And the sheriff's office hasn't gone up any. And here's, I guess, what I want somebody to explain to me. If the overall operation of the county goes up, which includes us because we're part of the county, then why don't we get a percentage, more of a percentage of that 27, or actually the total of 11.3 to go up with it? We are doing most of the work. We have half the employees, and with those kind of things, so it would seem to me that if a formula comes up and says, you know, this is what it goes up, then you get this, then we get this, so that it would go up and keep with that. Because here's the reality. Again, if you were to tell me tomorrow, start hiring 50 more deputies, I can't take it out of that 30.8 because I'm just barely surviving with the 30.8 to do what I've got to do, to pay the gas, buy cars, and we've set aside money in those cars. Other counties, they buy the cars in the entire county budget when they buy other vehicles. Hope needs vehicles, the treasurer needs vehicles, everybody else needs vehicles, sheriff needs vehicles, so they buy vehicles and then pass them. Charleston County actually buys only police cars, and when the police car gets to 80 or 90,000 miles, they send it over to the tax assessor's office so he can drive it now. They take the blue lights and the paint off it and all that, so now they can drive another 5-6 years because they don't do as much driving as we do. I think that's a wonderful plan. So the idea is if I continue to stay at 30.8, I cannot grow. Can't grow people, can't grow salaries, can't grow. If Duke Power comes in and doubles their bill, that means it's doubled in that millage side. It's something that's unexpected. And that's why we have a fund balance. We should not be spending our fund balance, i.e. just like most of y'all talk about all the time, the county has a fund balance. You want it there for emergencies. And we should not be dipping into the fund balance unless it's an absolute emergency. Salary inequities in the workplace, longevity, trying to reward our people that have been doing a good job year after year after year. Sheriff paying for stuff out of the millage account that we probably shouldn't. There's been several things, and I can get you a list if you want to, that have been going wrong at the jail. And again, we then pull it out of that because 5161 and 5141 are in the millage side of the budget, and we end up pulling some money out of that. So it comes out of my supposedly operating expenses every year to fix those. We just had some kind of machine that went down or something. I forgot what it was. It was a big expense. We paid part of it. Y'all paid part of it. We worked out a deal with them, but we got it fixed because it's something that had to be fixed quick. So that's how that works. Now, the Anderson County Sheriff's Office, the department is not, there are other things that are not in the 5161, like we said, the 5181, which is animal control and all those things, which is that line item budget. We're not paying to keep up with the expenses of the employees. Leading turnover is costing us and losing our workforce. I just gave you the numbers for that. Just gave you the numbers for that. County Council approves salary increases and focuses on the entry level, and that has happened over years. Actually, you know, it had an increase across the county for a while, but usually everybody comes up and says, well, we need to get the ones that are near the poverty level, we need to get them up. I agree with that 100%, but when you do that only on that level, what happens to my mid-management people? People have been here for 14, 15 years. One's really been doing the work. One's been staying here all the time. And we're going to talk about a thing, I think I got a slide here about compaction in a minute and show you what that does. I don't think anybody's on council now when this happened, because this was back in 89, 90, 91, 92, so I don't think anybody was there. Council come up with this good idea, and other councils do it around the state, so you know, we're not beating up on Anderson County, Well, they came up with this idea, well, everybody under $30,000 will give 5% raise. It sounds wonderful for those lower people. But then I got deputies that are making $31,000, been there for 5 years, and the guy that just came in yesterday that started at 29, now he's making 34. It kills morale. It kills the workforce. It makes them look for someplace else to go. We should reward loyalty for our mid-management and upper level. This is from your survey. I mean the county, whoever got the survey. While management should review all positions for internal and external equality, and we have some of those in our division, I'm more than willing to look at it. Based on recommendations, particularly attention should be addressed to the detention center, sheriff's office, communications, and information technology. Now, you can read that as, let's take all those lower level people and let's move them up. I don't read it that way. I read it because they're talking about you got your minimums, your maximums, and somewhere in there we're going to talk about moving everybody up to minimum plus a 2%, and I'll tell you how that may or may not work. But I read this as you take everybody and move them up, because if you don't, you're going to move the lower people past the mid-management people, and they're going to leave us. In that survey, it says the Anderson County survey produced the following. It says effective July 1, 15th, it is recommended that all salaries falling below the minimum should be brought and 2%. That's going to bring them up about this far, folks, and it ain't going to do nothing for those people who have been working for us year after year. Anderson County Sheriff's Office survey. We've done our own survey. Looked around the state. I have the Sheriff's Association, as we talk about sometimes, so they got all kind of data. So I call them. So the Anderson County Sheriff's Office survey produced the following. Anderson County Sheriff's Office was ranked as 9th in reported population in the 46 counties. We're 9th biggest in the state. And Anderson County Sheriff's Office was ranked 36th as minimum salary in the 46 counties. When we first started talking about the budget, I had my staff sit down and work out some numbers. What can we do to help keep people here? To sacrifice in my millage side of the budget, I was willing to give up a few things, to take money, and we made a proposal to give a $3,000 raise out of my millage to 412 employees. That includes dispatch, which includes budget that y'all have, or y'all have more fingers in, if I want to say. It says the increase, I offer to give $3,000 to my people right now to keep them from leaving, and then ask the county to give an additional $3 and pick up that $3 July 1, obviously. And the formula down there is to stop the compaction. If you move everybody up that $3,000 to $6,000, and you see we're now past the almost through with this year's budget, so we shouldn't do what the recommendation here is, but they should do that. If we do that $6,000, and then the compaction by giving the percentages down there makes everybody move up, so you don't put somebody short, a newcomer, past somebody that's been there 10 years. That's the purpose of that right there. Benefits of raises is safety to the community, economic safety, and helps usher in and encourage business, obviously, and then community satisfaction. Job satisfaction is something that everybody wants to do, but they're worried about paying their bills. I have them tell me all the time, when you raise the lower guy up, the bread still went up for the guy that's been there 10 years just as much as everybody else. They still have to go to the same store. When we have the benefits of that, it reduces the voluntary turnover, improves the sheriff's office cooperation in the community, and the community sees the officer in a better light, and the officers present themselves better. And I'm going to put this in here, and we do appreciate the proclamation. But I had a mama of a wife of a deputy that has kids come and relay this. Council appreciates and honors that was the headlines in the paper, deputies. And the proclamation says, as we remember and mourn the fallen, let us also remember how they lived. With unflinching commitment They defended our schools and our businesses. They guarded our prisons, patrolled our borders, and kept us safe on the street, on the road, as we went about our day-to-day lives. To their families, we owe an unpayable debt, and we do. And to the men and women who carry this mission forward, we owe our unyielding support. The comment, unyielding support. And we do appreciate that. But I'll read what her comment was. She says, she saw this proclamation. Starting pay and at the poverty level, reflective of unyielding support, is the commitment rewarding those who have proven loyal to the community and have stayed the course. And my final slide, these are quotes from you from the bench. We the county want to restore public faith in government. We do too. And we certainly have to work on it in law enforcement now with everything that's going on around the country. To improve quality of life in Anderson County citizens. Improving quality of life in Anderson County citizens is also protecting them and answering their calls quickly. This is another quote from one of you. To support economic development in Anderson County. We do need to do that. And we need to protect those folks that come in with economic development and have them to be able to. And one of my favorite, because Mr. Crowder and I talk about this all the time, you know, we've been kicking the can down the road. It's time to stop kicking the can and get my folks and those folks what they need to do their job, to protect the citizens of Anderson County, and to keep everybody safe, to include my people. Thank you.